Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 30. In this episode, I speak with my very dear friend of many years, Khalilah Yasmin. Khalilah is a writer, a poet, a super talented artist, and I'm very grateful to know her. She's an incredible friend. Her and I will have the deepest of conversations. She's given me so much great life advice. I've created projects with her. She's, again, super talented, and I'm very blessed to know her, and I'm very grateful that she came on the podcast. For the book of the episode, since Khalilah is a writer and a book author of several books, we're not just going to have one book of the episode, we're going to have three. All of these by Khalilah Yasmin. The first one is called Sublimation, and it's a book of some of Khalilah's poetry. The next is called Entertaining a Shadow, which is phenomenal. I don't want to give too much away. And her most recent is called Matador, which is a novel, which, again, not going to give it away, but it's worth your time. Very interesting and thought-provoking read. And she also has another book available on Amazon, which I still need to buy, called Ellipsis. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Khalilah.
Khalilah Yasmin, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for coming on. This has been a long time awaited.
Yes, apologies for that. I feel like the pandemic has changed me in a lot of ways, as I'm sure it has many people. So,
how has it changed you?
I feel like I've become more self-conscious and more introverted and more afraid to say the wrong thing. So I think that's another reason I was delaying coming on, because I was just feeling doubtful and imposter syndrome and all those other feelings of not doing things as often as I used to, certain things, certain environments and spaces where I used to frequent, I don't anymore, you know?
Do you feel as social as you were before the pandemic? Is that part of you still there, or is that gone away as well?
And excuse my voice, I'm dealing with some allergy issues. So, as social, I think my circle has become more niche. So maybe not as social. I don't know.
I think you and I have had, different discussions, and I know we've shared things to each other. It's like I don't think a lot of us, and I'm now just realizing some things as well. I think a lot of us don't realize what the last 2 years has done to us mentally.
Drama. Yeah. I don't think we have. I think a lot of us are burnt out. And one thing that the pandemic has taught me, which is a benefit, is to live in the moment more, because we have no idea what tomorrow holds. And as cliche as that sounds, we don't know how long we have people in our lives. So.
Well, and transitioning to something upbeat.
Yes.
One thing that you have done a couple of times now is you went to a destination that you always wanted to go to. So tell us what that destination is and was, and tell us all about it.
Oh, I went to Oahu in Hawaii. For me, it was like a spiritual journey. Number one, I've always been told that Khalilah sounds Hawaiian, even though it's Arabic. My whole life, people are like, Khalilah, is that Hawaiian? So I've always felt a calling to visit Hawaii. And before, I wasn't able to afford to go. And in 2020, I was able to afford to go twice. And I know it's potentially frowned upon to travel during a pandemic, but fully vaccinated. I followed all the precautions, social distance. I spent most of my time outside and did some forest bathing in Manoa Falls. They have this beautiful rainforest hike, and I don't know what it's like for anybody else there, but it feels like I'm being watched by God while I'm walking through. It's just, I can't even describe it. I mean, I can, but it won't do it justice. The pictures don't do it justice. Like, even after taking a picture, I'll take a picture, look at it, and I'm like, this isn't what I'm seeing. It's like you can't capture it on camera. It's like there's some other mystical force that prevents you from being able to fully capture it unless you're there. It's great.
And it's just probably really
2,700 miles to do it again.
It's really clean there too, right? I assume the air is like really, really clean. It would have to be, I would think.
Yes, because as soon as I got back, I started having allergy issues. I think that's my body rebelling to this Vegas dust.
And how is the humidity there? Is it like really humid? Is it?
I don't think so. I feel like it's just like ocean air. It's just, I probably sound like a Hawaii groupie right now. It's just, the air there is just so magical. It's, I don't know. It's unlike anywhere else in the world. At least anywhere I've been.
And what, I know this is a trip you wanted to do for a long time. What was that thing that made you just make that decision, like, I'm going? Especially that first time.
What was it?
I don't remember either. It was all in 1 year, right? You've done this all in 2021? Did you do it all?
What made me, I don't even remember what made me like finally book it last year. I don't know. I think, well, during the pandemic, seeing some of the things that were going on and just realizing we don't have a lot of time to do the things that we want to do. So if you want to do something and you have the means to do it, do it. Don't wait for anybody. Also health-wise, like I had some foot issues some years ago, 2 years ago, and walking was a struggle. So traveling was quite complicated. And that's another thing, like do the things while you're physically able, financially able, mentally able, because just don't know.
Yeah, Hawaii's a trip. Yeah, every single person that's ever been there has told me it's just absolutely incredible. And then I know you really well, and you go, and you're like, no, it's absolutely incredible. You need to go.
It is. I'd like to go again, but next time I would like to see one of the other islands. Oahu's easier to get around because it's more tourist friendly, I think, and not quite as secluded. So if you don't plan on renting a car, I feel like Oahu is best for finding an Uber and those things and getting around.
How was the trip for you? Because I know on one, or I guess transformationally, maybe from the inside, because I remember you posted a picture of Anthony DeMello's Awareness from there that, we always talk about, and I mention in every single episode. Like, so was there some type of an inner journey for you with going on that trip, aside from the outer beauty of everything there?
Well, I think the outer beauty affects the inner transformation as well. Seeing things that I never thought I would see. Seeing is believing, it felt like a manifestation by seeing some of those things come to life that I'd always wanted to see. And but it was definitely a journey inward, mostly, If I was blind, I would probably still enjoy Hawaii, but the beauty is, I'm very grateful for my vision.
Mm-hmm. So where do you want to go? Where do you want to go next besides Hawaii? Where's somewhere what else is on the radar?
French Polynesia. Anywhere with water. Yeah. Oh, actually, next up, I'd really love to see the redwoods.
That's on my yeah, that's on my to do too. Yeah, no, I just talked to a buddy who went up there. He's just like, it's breathtaking.
Yeah, I love the trees, and that was one of the things about the hike that I did in Hawaii that I loved so much is trees are, I don't know, there's some trees that just give you this otherworldly feeling. Like, I mean, they hold a lot of wisdom. They've been here for a while. They teach us a lot about life. It's a lot to be learned from a tree.
A book you might enjoy that I read during this past, or the 2021, it's called The Overstory.
Uh-huh.
One of the best novels I've ever read, and it has everything to do with trees. And it explains how some trees are literally as old as when Christ was here on the earth. Like there's trees that are like 2,000 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's
Where are those
insane.
trees?
Huh?
I said, where are those trees?
I think up in is the redwoods? That's up by past San Francisco, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah, I think up in that area.
Like 19 miles from Patrick's Point.
Okay. Yeah, that's a California trip I definitely need to make. And speaking of books, which I just mentioned, the Overstory, you are a writer and have written several books, which I usually have one book be the book of the episode. This time it's going to be 3 because I actually have 3 of your books. I'll name them real quick. Matador, Entertaining a Shadow, Sublimation, and then you inform me I have not gotten, which I need to purchase, Ellipsis.
Correct.
What's Ellipsis
My
about?
first one is out of print, so you don't have that one.
Okay, what's Ellipsis about?
Ellipsis is another collection of poetry. So I have 3 books that are poetry and then 2 fiction novellas.
And Matador was the last. And Matador, actually, you wrote that after a trip to China. Am I remembering that correctly?
Correct.
Yeah. Could you, in a nutshell, just give us tell the people a little bit what's about, because it's a fascinating read. It's brilliant.
So Matador is a fantasy thriller. It's about 3 American siblings. They travel to Shanghai to film new content for their controversial show. And while they are there, they're visiting the area called the Bund, somewhere I visited while I was there as well. It's gorgeous. And when they're there, they have a chance encounter with this gypsy who essentially puts a spell on them that changes each individual life very specifically. And it's basically black magic and technology coming together to teach life lessons.
Life lessons, and then Entertaining a Shadow. That I need to reread this one actually, because it's been years since I read it. But I remember texting you throughout reading it, like, "Oh my God, like this is incredible."
I need to reread it too. I'm probably going to be embarrassed. I feel like when I look back at just about anything that's at least a year old, I'm embarrassed of it. So, yeah.
Well, and I remember. Go ahead.
I said, I think that's just a part of growth as an artist. Like we look back and we're like, oh my God, what the hell is this? Am I allowed to cuss on this podcast?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
What the hell is this shit? Like, what is this? Yeah.
Well, then I'm looking through Sublimation, and what's interesting about Sublimation, this is right around, I had already known you, but this is when like I really started to get to know you more. And I remember you performing this at the Beat Coffee House. And I actually filmed a couple of them that you were doing.
Yes.
Out there. And one thing I've always respected about you, when you say you're going to write a book, you write a book. Like I've witnessed you do it now multiple times. Like you're like, all right, it came to me, I'm going to write this book. And then next thing you know, boom, you write the book and it's out and you can buy it and it's purchased. So what, can you take us through that process for you, at least when you get that idea of writing a book? What happens when you just get the idea and you're like, I'm going to do it? Is that how it works with you?
It's like being impregnated with something. Like a couple nights I became impregnated with something again. But I won't reveal now because I like to keep them to myself until it's about to be released. But the process is really just like being impregnated with something. You're impregnated and it just takes over. Like sometimes I feel like these ideas come from muses that are just whispering in my ear and just choosing me to tell whatever story it is. I know that sounds however it sounds, but that's what it feels like sometimes. Like I'm a messenger, or like something's using me to speak through. And you just get inspired, and I don't know, it's hard to explain.
How do you, and I was talking to you, I've talked to you about this before, have you read The War of Art?
Yes!
Yeah, where he talks about resistance. Pressfield, Stephen Pressfield talks about that resistance. How do you break through that resistance? Because I've never written a book yet, but I've like attempted to like begin, and it's just like it really hits you like how much work it actually is. So what is it that helps you finish it off? Like, because anyone can write, but I think it's a totally other ball game to write into completion and to actually finish a full novel, book, like everything you've written. What keeps you focused, I guess?
You mean to complete it?
Yeah, to complete it.
Spite is a good motivator. I'm just kidding. This is going to sound a little dark, but knowing that we have such a small time on this earth, that's one of my motivators. And leaving my mark, even though most people, the average person, myself, are easily forgotten once they're gone. And in the grand scheme of things, 100 years from now, who's going to remember me? But it's still just wanting to create something that lives beyond me, something that has a life separate from me. And I guess that's where that being impregnated with art or an idea comes from.
Yeah, I dig that. And I want to plug your books. We'll plug them again at the end, but where can people find all your books right now?
So not all of them, but 4 of the 5 are available on Amazon.
And they just type your name.
Published author through Amazon.
And basically just type your name into the search and I think they all pull up, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, they're all connected.
Okay, awesome. Well, you got me thinking now about the universe.
Which part?
I mean, the thing with you is I'm like, man, there's so many different ways we can go with just the whole death thing. And I sent you the Tim Ferriss podcast about the cosmic insignificance.
Yes, and that's what I was speaking on in a way, was that in the grand scheme of things, like, is anything I'm doing actually mattering to anybody but me? You know, I mean, it's cool if I inspire or touch one person, that's great. But ultimately, we do things for ourselves, right? You write the book that you want to read. You create the art that you want to see.
Yeah, that's how it should be. That's how it should be for basically anything, you know, that you do. His name's Naval Ravikant. He talked about how like life is he calls it a one-player game, meaning so many of us, and myself included, have lived their life for other people, like to impress other people, or they're doing this to get attention from other people. That's all your ego. That's all. That's not like in like that soul, that being that's trapped. That's your experience, is you. You know, so you doing things to please all these other people, like it's empty.
I agree. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was touched on by Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art, that we have to create the art for ourselves, and not necessarily for the applause or for other people's accolades. If I'm remembering it correctly.
Yeah, no, I need to go back to that one too. And for some reason I wanted to bring in relationships to what we're talking about, because it reminds me, like, same thing, like being in relationships, you realize too, like, it's just that concept that you have to be your own complete person of happiness. Like, right. No one's going to give it to you. So kind of the same thing with the universe and your art and everything. It's, no, you need to do this for you. You need to make it for you. And that's probably where some of the most original stuff comes from, or the people that just had to do it.
I agree.
You know, like a Quentin Tarantino is one of the first people, like a guy like that. Like, he just, when he gets an idea for a movie, he's like, all right, this is what I'm doing for the next 2 years of my life. Sure, he'll make a ton of money off of it, but he's to the point where, no, I just need to make this movie.
Right. I would love to get to that level one day. I think it's fighting through that imposter syndrome and self-doubt. Sometimes that, like when you were talking about what's my process, like, I admittedly haven't done as much writing during the pandemic as I have in previous years, which is ironic considering all the downtime that I've had. But I think it's hard sometimes for me to complete that project if there's all these other anxiety things going on, you know? And obviously the world is in a state of trauma right now, and I'm a sensitive person, so I absorb all of that, and sometimes it's just very overwhelming.
And you and I talked about that during this pandemic, because, right away when the shutdowns happened, people were like, this is the time to finally write that screenplay or to finally finish that book, or there's no more excuses. But then it's like,
this is King's Lair. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, for some people, they were able to do that. That's awesome. But I think the quote was something along the lines of, sometimes during times like that, you're supposed to absorb the experience and you'll write about it later, but you have to go through it. You're not going to be able to go through it if I'm thinking about writing it already.
Yes.
Same thing with my injury. Like when I got hurt, it was like, well, now I can do whatever I want, but it's like, your mind's not there. And I feel the more that it just comes when it comes. That's what I realized. It just comes when it comes, at least for me.
Yeah. And when we try to force things, just like they say about trying to force a fart, it's shit, You could force something and then it becomes shit. Force relationships, forcing art. Now it's shit. Now you've wasted your time and what?
Oh, now I got to bring this up. So transition to that. Tell me about the concept of, if it's not fuck yes, it's fuck no.
Oh, Mark Manson. I love him. Yeah. So Mark Manson, great author. He's the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which is a great book about putting things into perspective, because it's about managing your fucks wisely. Because if you give too much fucks about the wrong things, everything else is out of balance. So fuck yes and fuck no. Basically, if somebody or something isn't as enthusiastic about you as you are, that's a fuck no. And if something isn't fuck yes, then it's not worth going towards. It's not worth investing that energy into. And that applies to relationships, projects. I feel like it can be applicable to anything in life.
I think that's probably one of the, and I'm still constantly working on it, but definitely one of the best skills I've picked up in the last few years is just that ability to tell someone no politely. Because I can't tell you how many times I've said yes, like going, oh, I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to be a nice person and help them out. And look, there's times where you do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you always do that, you're never going to do anything that you want to do. Ever.
Yeah, if you're constantly saying yes to other people, you're saying no to yourself, and you can't keep saying no to yourself. So the first person you have to please, for some of us former people pleasers, is ourselves.
It's about setting those boundaries too, right, with people. That's something too I didn't really think about until like the past couple of years. It's like, well, I have the ability and I can tell people like where I'm not and am willing to go on things. It's very powerful.
Right. Like I believe that as humans, we're social creatures and we're meant to be a service to others, but not to our detriment. Not to our detriment. You can't pour from an empty cup.
You got to fill your own cup first.
Mm-hmm. You got to put your own mask on when the plane's going down first.
Yeah, because you can't help anyone else with theirs unless yours is on, because you're going to pass out.
Right. Yeah.
What's something that you've learned about yourself over these past couple of years for the better during this pandemic? Something new that you've discovered about yourself, or any new revelations?
That no matter what, I can't change my sensitivity. I'm a sensitive person by nature, and sensitivity is not a weakness. It's my strength. The ability to care about people deeply, to feel things intensely, to see a painting and be moved to tears, to see a landmark, to see nature and be moved in such a way that my spirit shakes. That sensitivity is a great thing. And when I try to deny it or pretend that it's not there, it just erupts like a volcano. And I've learned to stop doing that to myself.
Just kind of let it be what it is.
Yes. And that when people put you down for being sensitive or feeling things intensely, it's because they don't have the capacity to do so.
Well, and that just reminds me of just having awareness of yourself too. I think we think so many times, I need to change. I need to change. It's not, yeah, some things you can change, but there is just some things of who you are. Like I'm even recognizing myself lately. I'm like, God, I'm just like that on certain things. But it's the fact that I can be aware of it and acknowledge it and communicate that to another person or people that I'm interacting with. It totally changes the landscape, you know?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I feel like the world could use more sensitive people in certain regards. I'm not saying sensitivity in the sense that every little thing hurts my feelings. It just means I care, you know? I care about things, I care about people. And I think that's a good thing.
Hmm.
It's the reason I write. If I didn't have that sensitivity, I wouldn't be the same type of writer. I wouldn't write about things that matter. Where would I feel them enough to push through to get that on the paper, you know?
Hmm.
So if I were to take that part away from myself, as many times as I've tried to wish it away, I would no longer be me. Something would be missing, something important.
And I'm sure we talked about because we did an interview years ago. I will not say how many. Yeah,
Wait, which one was
were you?
that?
Huh?
Which one was that?
So, the social media show in studio at UNLV.
Oh, yes, yes.
And where you blew huh?
Bieber.
Yeah, where you literally blew my mind on camera. Like no joke, the whole Justin Bieber. Uh, that was a whole other thing. that changed my marketing mind. Like that was a pivotal moment. And to give people context, so do you still love Justin Bieber as much, or is it kind of faded now? Or is it?
I still really admire his journey.
Yeah.
I really do. And I still love his music. So yeah, I still think he's great, but I've grown and matured since then. I'm not Bieber fever, but I still think he's great.
Back when you had Bieber fever, because you would post it on social media, and like I'm thinking, oh, she's the biggest Justin Bieber fan of all time.
But was I?
Exactly. And that's what you did to me. I'm like, well, what if you said, what if I wasn't? And I'm like, whoa, you're telling me people can put a false perception of themselves on social media? Really? And it really, I don't know, that was like a huge marketing.
They're pretending to be confident and they're actually super insecure. And they use social media as a way to build their confidence, you know? So I think a lot of people have personas.
What do you think of social media these days?
I feel like it's a tool. I use it can't talk. I use it mainly for a source of entertainment and to share my art. I find it funny. I love when Twitter latches on to a random topic, just a random meme, and they just go ham and everybody gives their interpretation, and it's just hilarious. Like I could spend a good half hour just laughing at people's reactions to certain current events.
The comments are probably almost as good, if not better, than a lot of actual posts. I've been lost in a few comment sections myself.
Yes, same. There's a lot of funny stuff out there. I try to steer away from the heavy political type things, and fortunately, I've hidden a lot of it from my feed. So I think social media can be good, it can be bad, it can be whatever you make it. But just like whatever we consume to put in our body physically, whatever we're consuming mentally, we have to be held responsible for too. So if something is causing you discomfort or whatever, in whichever regard, it's up to you to decide, okay, I'm going to remove this from my consumption. I don't want to consume this anymore.
Yeah, and that can go, and it can even be from people that you like in real life. But maybe on there, they just post stuff that's just not good for your psyche.
Yes.
Or your mind frame, and just really choosing what you let. You've taught me that too, like being very selective on what you let in.
Yes.
To your mind space.
Yes, because a lot of us can be sponges, and even on a subconscious level, sometimes we're absorbing things and we don't even realize that we're taking these images and perceptions in that aren't necessarily even our own. You know, like I feel like a lot of media does that with making even on the topic of racism, for instance, some of the stereotypes and misconceptions about certain people come from the images and things that they're consuming, you know? I've seen some actors say they no longer want to take certain roles because this role is constantly placing them into a stereotype that affects the community as a whole negatively. It's like, I don't want to be a drug dealer. I don't want to be a loud mouth, this. You know, I don't want to portray that and put more of those images into the mind of the average person that this is what to expect when you see this, you know?
Yeah, you're right. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Hollywood definitely does that. Just the same stereotypes, the same. Because I thought it was cool. They did a Black Spiderman movie, right? Didn't you see that movie?
Oh, the animated?
The animated.
Yeah. Well, Miles Morales. I feel like he was biracial. Mm-hmm. Morales. Mm-hmm. I think he was Black and Hispanic origin. But it was still nice to see a character, a person of color, as a Spider-Man, who's my favorite superhero, by the way.
Have you seen the new one?
I have not.
I haven't either.
Yeah. I've actually only been to the movie once during the pandemic. Yeah, I saw Licorice Pizza.
Oh, I know. There's billboards all over for that. I got to see that. You said it was really good, right?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Without giving it away, what did you like most about it? Without like telling the details of.
It had a very unique type of humor. It was just funny. It wasn't trying too hard to be funny. It was just showing the interpersonal relationships between people, just doing their best. That's what I feel like. It was just showing people being human, doing their best.
And I wanted to go back to, if you're comfortable talking about it, because I've had, I've appreciated being able to have open dialogues with you over the years about race and your viewpoints on certain things of society, and also too, to bring it up a little bit too, I think you give a really interesting perspective, because you're a writer first and foremost. You're a writer, but you've also done some modeling and things like that. So I guess what I'm leading to is going back to stereotypes as well. Just some of the things. Could you maybe open up a little bit or share a little about with just some of the things you've had to deal with over the years, whether it was because of your race or because of your gender, because of quote unquote being a model, like. Because I feel like you're someone. I feel you're, no pun intended with all your books, but I feel you really like, you can call it out. Like, look, you can't judge a book by its cover. Like they see beautiful woman. Oh, well, I assume then this, and this about her. But then
it's always fun.
So I'm just opening up the conversation to that realm. If you're comfortable speaking on anything.
Yeah. Shoot. There's just so many. Give me an example, like which category?
Like I know one time you told me like with your hair sometimes.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
I thought that was a good example. So you tell us about that?
Well, being Black in this world, like it's hard to hide when you're Black. You know, like our skin is the darkest skin. I guess there's other cultures that do get darker as well, but the other thing that separates Black people from some of the other ethnicities is the uniqueness of our hair, you know? So our hair, most of us aren't born with straight hair. Our hair grows towards the sky and not towards the ground. Right now, my hair is straightened because it was growing towards the sky, but there are certain Eurocentric standards that Black people are expected to adhere to that are very frustrating. Like back when relaxers, which is the chemical that Black people put on their hair to straighten it, back when those became popular, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting to straighten your hair or put a chemical on it to permanently straighten it. But when it becomes something that you're doing in order to be socially accepted or hired for a job just to make a living, it's a problem, and it's really sad, the things that I see a lot of Black women specifically going through with their hair just to meet these Eurocentric standards, where Black women eventually end up with alopecia. They're bald. They just go through all these things and just wake up not feeling good enough. And I don't think it's right. Like, I feel like we should be celebrated for our differences instead of separated by them. I feel like everybody has something to offer, and I don't think that we all need to look alike in order to fit in or be alike. Like, there's beauty in diversity. There's beauty in inclusion. And living in this body and this experience, there's certain things that I can't show someone, because we could be in the same room at the same time, but in this different body, I'm going to meet eyes with somebody that's going to give you a completely different look that they're giving me. They're going to give you a completely different energy. And you're not going to be able to recognize that energy because you're not meeting eyes with them in my body, And that's one of the reasons I wrote Matador, for instance. And not to give a spoiler away, but the quote I open up with in the book is by Marcel Proust. It's, "The only true voyage of discovery is not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." And that can be interpreted a number of ways, but it's perspective. It's being in somebody's experience to actually put yourself in their shoes. And as much as we can say that we understand one another, some things will never be understood unless you have to actually be in that body.
That was deep, man. Yeah, you're exactly right. Like, just because of the color of your skin, or being a woman, or whatever it is, like, put whatever label you want on it.
And even, disabled people, like there's just so many different things that you just won't understand unless you're in that situation. And you have, your injury, and you got to see what it's like to be, knocked off of your normal routine.
And the importance of holding the door with someone that's on crutches or a cane or in a wheelchair. Like, it's you totally change your viewpoint on it. Not that you didn't care before, but now that you've experienced what that's like, you totally view it. I really like what you said about just meeting people at their eyes. Just whatever your outer, whatever is your outer, because that's not what's inside you. That's just simply your outer shell.
Right. And it's like, we weren't up in wherever. I don't know where humans come from. I don't know if we come from heaven. I don't know if we come from Mars. Wherever we come from, I don't think that we're sitting up there like, you know what? This is the experience I want. But maybe we are. Maybe I was up there and I was like, you know what? I want to be a Black girl in America. That sounds exciting.
Well, for the record, you are an alien, by the way. I think I've already told you that. I don't think you're of this world anyway. In a good way.
Yeah. Just going to tell my whole secret to everyone.
Maybe I should edit that part out.
No, it's fine. It's fine. They won't believe you anyway.
It's actually kind of a good movie idea you got me. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, if you told me, like, "Hey, Sam, just to let you know, so yeah." Like,
my people are coming for me.
Yeah, like, wow, you played it well.
God, I wish. I keep waiting.
Do you think there's aliens?
Who are you talking to? Seriously? Yeah, I don't think I know. I have no scientific proof other than my existence. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think there are. Like, have you ever seen those videos or just even those photos where they're showing you Earth compared to the sun, and then it just keeps getting smaller and smaller as they comparison, and then they zoom out, basically getting all the way into like these other galaxies?
pretty
Like
mind-blowing.
telling me we're the only human life or intelligent life in all these galaxies? No, we just haven't been able to reach them. Or if they've reached us, they took a look and were like, fuck that.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, we're good. We're good on that. They're gonna be they'll destroy themselves. We'll come in and take whatever at the end. Like that's.
I don't know if they want anything here. They just look at us like, wow, they haven't evolved yet. Maybe they're watching us on some like reality TV program somewhere.
Ha! Like the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I think
Probably a
about
good.
that sometimes.
Huh?
I said I think about that sometimes. Just seeing some of the things that, just like racism, for instance, some of these silly little issues that aren't really worth having. You know, I'm like, if some aliens came, I bet people really quickly, if they were like the aliens from Mars Attack, would be like, oh, we got to band together, brother. Oh, now I'm your brother? Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Now we're brothers. Okay, sure.
I mean, there's we could do an entire podcast on racism and you being, black in America, type of thing.
And an alien.
And an alien, and
I gotta stop before somebody watches this and they come get me.
yeah, or you just teleport right here on the spot. I mean, if we don't even, you don't even have to go into it if you don't want to, because I know it's a very complex issue. But from your viewpoint, coconut water. Take it. That actually looks pretty good. From your seat where you're at, what? Because I think about this. Like I think about. We know there's a problem. Like there's a problem when it comes to racism. It's obvious. It's an issue. Is your opinion? What do you think needs to be done? What are the answers to it? I guess I don't have them. So I'm curious.
Alien invasion.
Alien invasion?
Yeah. I feel like the problem is not just racism, it's lack of empathy. People, at the heart of racism is the lack of empathy. Like, nobody's better than anybody else. Nobody's better because they're black. Nobody's better because they're white or so forth. We're all just trying to have a human experience and get through life the best we can. We're all just doing our best. Well, the most of us, those of us that aren't assholes. And I feel like, I don't know if there's a fix-all for that. It probably will never go away. I know I won't see it go away in my lifetime. Probably, I can't even imagine. I feel like people grasp onto an idea that makes them feel safe and comfortable, and they're going to stick to that idea and spread it to other people that they think are going to latch on board and give them that power in numbers, And it's unfortunate, but for some people, racism is a religion, and it's just as powerful. And can be just as damaging as some religions have been, I don't have the solutions.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want the responsibility of being the one that had them.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
What do you think?
What do I think?
What do you think would solve it? Or help?
So I'm literally just I actually was thinking this as I was getting out of the shower today. I just randomly started thinking about, because it's kind of like what you just said too. It's like, and I think just now, like whenever there's clear, like a visual difference to a human being, there's going to be those humans that automatically segregate. And this is us, this is you. You know what I mean? Now sometimes, and I really hope I speak this correctly, like I don't think everyone's malicious with it. I think they're just ignorant and uneducated. And, if someone's just grown up around the same type of people their entire life,
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know any better. I'm not making excuses for them, but then like you just said too, there's some people like, no, this is law. Like,
right.
This is how it is, and this is how it's going to go. And the point I was getting
on a smaller scale, like even sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah,
even
go
on a
ahead.
scale, if you look at friend groups, sometimes when you look at friend groups, and not necessarily that they all are the same ethnicity, but I feel like sometimes people choose people that are on the same wavelength, so they look alike. You know, they have just similarities in a lot of friend groups. Not many, but they have similarities, you know? Have you noticed that? Like when you see cliques, it's like, oh, you guys kind of dress alike and speak alike.
Well, okay, so and again, okay, so two quick things. I don't know if they're quick, but first thing, and a friend of mine, Kamitria Hill, who came on this podcast early on, who is a Black woman, she told a story that really, I don't know, for some reason, really resonated with me and giving me more perspective because, you know, I haven't had to think of certain things my whole life. I haven't had to, when I get pulled over, it's, oh man, I really hope I don't get a ticket. You know what I mean? Like, and like you said, the thing about like when I enter a room, certain people, and who knows, I mean, certain people may not like me for another reason, who knows? But as far as skin color goes, I haven't been a Black person going into a room or certain situations and having to have those reservations and insecurities on their mind about, and what she told me was, she told a story where she was traveling across country to see her mom, and she was going through some sketchier areas on the way there, and she had gotten a knife for self-protection in case she needed it. But she left it in the plastic, didn't even take it out. And she told me, she said, I tried to weigh out in my mind what would be worse, me to potentially have to use this in self-defense on someone trying to attack me, or me getting pulled over by a police officer and having them find a weapon in my car. And that really blew my mind because that's just how she thinks. And so I bring that to say, it really gave me perspective of like, you know, good friends of mine, such as yourself and many others who are not white. It's like, wow, like those types of things are on their minds in everyday situations. And I don't even think twice about a lot of that. I may think about other things in different realms, but it really gave me that perspective. And I say all that to say it really made me realize that, and because you'll have people argue, right? Especially with, you know, the whole what's happened in the past couple of years, people say, you know, racism's everywhere, it's terrible, this, that, and this. Then you'll have people say, no, it's all this, they're just it's an illusion, and this, that, and the other, and they'll throw stats to say this is why. When you just put them both to the side for a second, the one thing you cannot dispute, and this is what really just solidified in my mind to be conscious of, whether you think it's real or it's not, doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, for people of certain skin colors, it's 110% real 24/7 in their psychological mind. And that in itself is trauma. That in itself, yeah.
And it's an experience. Nobody
Right.
can tell you what experiences you aren't having, you know? And whether or not, like the anxieties before the experience, those anxieties come from experience, you know? So her talking about getting pulled over with a knife or having to use it to defend herself, I get that. And yes, that nothing actually happened with that. You know, she's talking about a feeling she had. But there's people that actually deal with experiences. And so who's someone else to say that, no, that didn't happen to you? Yeah, it did, you know? And these things happen constantly. Like, like for instance, in the modeling world, for me, I still do some things here and there. And I have to, wear my hair a certain way, which is expected for a model, that you're supposed to be expected to present yourself to represent something, right? But for a Black woman with natural hair, it's a little bit more complicated. So there's comments and things people will say that are insensitive. Like once I had someone tell me that I should consider moving to Africa where I can wear my hair natural. I'm like, why would I have to go all the way there in order to wear my hair natural? Because people make some strange comments, you know? And these are experiences that I've had, and they don't say that to, you know, other people about you need to go back to someplace in Europe, you know? I don't know. It's weird. It's bizarre.
And like when we were trying to, the thing I was thinking about when I got out of the shower, it's like when I say what the answer is, like someone may say the answer is reparations, or the answer's this, and this. But then I thought about, like, but is that really going to solve the problem? I'm not saying it's not deserved. I'm saying, like, but will that solve the problem? Like, will that, or is that just a Band-Aid? You know, things like that. You see what I'm saying? Like, is it going to, like you're saying, because, and I guess part of it too, I think you brought up a brilliant point, like how it will be kept in households. And when you're passing, so really, I mean, maybe this is one of these solutions, is really, you know, how children are raised. You know.
How can you eradicate? Because sometimes people, like, even if they're not raised a certain way, people become who they become. You know, like we all are raised a certain way, but then we reach a certain age and we decide who we are. We decide what we're going to like based on our environmental factors or the people that we choose to surround ourselves with. So whether it came from the parents or whether it came from somebody they met along the way who was taught it from wherever they learned it from, you know? So I don't know if there's a way to eradicate it when there's so many people that still perpetuate it and keep it alive. Just got to learn to live around it, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Because like it's especially too when you know talks like we have and these trying to go to higher forms of consciousness. And I love what you said. I really took away, like, you really gave a great reminder just to make eye contact with people, and like whatever their outer appearance, it's whatever. Like, try to connect with people in that way first. You know?
Yeah, we're just humans trying to have a human experience.
And it doesn't matter if you're black, yellow, brown, purple, red, green. You know, we're all human. We all bleed red.
Yeah, we all have wants, desires, and things that hurt us. We're all afraid of something. And I think most racism stems from fear and lack of understanding and, of course, lack of empathy. People fear what they don't understand. So.
Well, I really appreciate you opening up about that and talking about that. And if I could slide one more topic in. Tell me about dating. We don't have to go into it. But
I don't have anything personal to share.
But right. But in general, what's kind of your viewpoint now on that whole realm? Relationships, whatever. Anything could be anything.
As a culture, it's a little sad that people are so obsessed with hooking up instead of like actually having a connection. And there's nothing wrong with the hookup culture, but I feel like people need to be more honest. And if you're a hookup culture person, don't try to manipulate somebody that you know is not in that vibe to get something out of them that they're not on board with. You know, I just feel like people need to be more honest with each other, because you can be polyamorous, you can be all these things, but don't try to be polyamorous with a monogamous person, you know? I feel like people need to find their people and be honest so that they're not manipulating people and damaging hearts along the way, you know?
I totally relate, and I totally agree with, I think just having those upfront conversations in the beginning, because I have found if one person has viewpoints one way on how they want it to be, and another person has different viewpoints. You can put as much effort into it as you want. It will always be a square peg, round hole. It is not going through. It's not going to fit. So it's better to recognize that from the beginning, so you can go, okay, hey, this just ain't going to work. Or at least be like, hey, we know what it is at least. We know where we both stand.
It's just like I saw something on Twitter, I believe it was recently, and it said there's nothing wrong with a guy that wants a woman that cooks all the time, or a woman that wants a guy that lets her stay home. There's nothing wrong with that. But those two people that want those things have to find each other. You don't get with somebody that's completely opposite of the values that you hold and then try to force them to be this other thing. You know? It's like, no, find the person that already exemplifies these values that you want so that you can minimize conflict. There's always going to be conflict, but trying to force somebody to be some ready-made person is just a lost cause.
And I like what you said too about the hookup culture. Like I'm the pot calling the kettle black in most circumstances when it comes to what would it be called? Just dealing with lust and getting lost in the dating apps and even looking at girls on social media. It's crazy, I think, just how sex obsessed a lot of us really are.
Yeah, and to me, like that sex obsession at the core of it, it's coming from a desire to connect, right? But people just want the microwave version of that connection. And it just cheapens it, like there's so much more you can get from just a little quick orgasm with somebody you barely fucking know. Like, what's the point? I mean, to each their own, but I feel like a lot of the people that are seeking these things, they go after the person that's seeking sustenance. And I just,
Yeah, I'm just to a point in my life too now where, look, don't get me wrong, the physical realm is great. It's phenomenal. But I just realized now, like, it's like, wow, that's like a small slither of like what a relationship can be. There's so many other components and great things that you can use for your human experience. But if you're just constantly obsessed with sex all the time and that's all you care about, it's kind of really an empty road. That's one thing I've realized too. You're just chasing orgasm. That's it.
Yeah, and you can do that by yourself without bringing somebody else and their energies along. Like, I know it's not quite as awesome, but I don't know. I feel like a hopeless romantic stuck in a hookup culture society. And it's heartbreaking because I feel like so many people try to pretend now that they don't feel anything. There's all these like silly games they tell you to play. Like, oh, she texts you back too fast? She's thirsty. She's desperate. No, I actually just happen to be looking at my phone. Like, why should I play this game where I'm like, oh no, I'm going to wait exactly 43 minutes to write him back because I don't want to look too eager. Why? There's going to be a time when I don't reply right away because I'm fucking busy. That's life. But why do I have to play these games and pretend not to be interested to get them to be interested and feel like I'm quoting Vince Vaughn in Wedding Crashers?
Why can't we just like each other and both admit we like each other, right?
Right? Like, why are all these silly games? And then it's like, why do you have to pretend to not be interested to garner their interest? Why can't people just be interested? Why can't you be vulnerable and honest? Showing interest is now a weakness? The fuck? Who wants to play these games? Do you realize how short life is? It's like, you want me, I want you, let's go. Let's hang out. Let's go do stuff.
Oh man, I'll have to call myself out. I won't go too much into my own personal life on this podcast, but yeah, I mean, I have now entered into a relationship, and it's wonderful. I must always thank you for your counsel as always. And I was in that. I admitted to her. I'm like, I was in that phase of just like, because you know, it's good to read books and it's good to like listen to people on advice but it does get to that point where you're like, what are you doing? Like, you two obviously like each other. What do you like? You're just going to keep playing the psychological warfare back and forth. It's like, dude, just
that's stupid.
Open up and embrace.
But we can't judge everybody, good or bad. We can't judge everybody by our other past experiences. Oh, she's doing this or he's doing this. They're going to do this, or it's going to become this because they're doing this. It's like, no, this person is an individual. You have to get to know them individually and allow it to play out.
Yeah, and you've said something to me before too that really stuck. Was you have to let people be who they are.
Yes.
And you have to be who you are.
Yes.
And see, and I've made that mistake before of trying to alter myself to make it fit a situation. It's like, well, dude, you've already lost. It will crumble. It will go.
I had an ex's mom say something to that regard to me many years ago. She said, don't pretend to be interested in the things that he's interested in. Because one day you're going to wake up, he's going to wake up, you both are going to wake up, and you're going to be laying next to a stranger because you weren't being yourself.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because eventually the mask come off, the makeup washes off, the guards come down, and you're this.
Also, to pull another quote you've given me before, people make time for people that they want to make time for.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, very true. I'm guilty of it too. Like if I mean, obviously I haven't been feeling well lately, so I have had to put a lot of friends on the back burner. Excuse me. But we all do. We find a way to make time for the things that are valuable to us. And anybody that says they don't have time just doesn't have the time for you.
And on that note, that was a good, for you. Well, Khalilah, I know this has been amazing. I definitely want to have you on again in the future because there's 10 million things we didn't talk about, we could have, but I really very grateful for your friendship. I'm very grateful for your vulnerability and openness on this podcast. Just grateful for you, man. Like you are awesome.
Grateful for you too.
Yeah, you're just one of those people that I'm like, man, I'm really lucky to have known you and have created with you and to continue having conversations with you. Because I know that you more than likely are an alien or our spirits have met in other lifetimes. So that's a whole other conversation we can get into.
Don't worry, when Mars attacks Sam, you're safe. If that's what you're doing right now, you're safe.
Just save me a spot, okay? Just save me a spot. Can you save your boy a spot? But no, I appreciate.
Guys, he's safe.
You're a brilliant artist, and before I give you the last word, like I always give people, where is the best place for people to find you online? And where can they get the books again? Where should everyone go to find you?
So KhalilahYasmin.com. Also, I'm on SoundCloud if you'd like to hear my voice reciting some of my poetry. What else? SoundCloud.com/Khalilah Yasmin, KhalilahYasmin.com. I have an Amazon page that features 4 of my 5 books. I'm putting the works together to do a audio book of poetry soon. So getting some feedback on my SoundCloud would be awesome.
Awesome. And yeah, we didn't even talk about your poetry is incredible. So, and that's actually how when we first met in person in Vegas, I started going to your poetry events, and I've always been blown away by your words.
Thanks.
And
I love poetry. It's bringing emotion to words in a way that average conversation cannot.
And Khalilah, I always leave the guests with the last word. It can be as deep or as shallow as you want it to be. It can, I don't want to put you on the spot. You can read poetry if you want. You could.
Oh, no.
Yeah, or you could just a thought you've been having. It can be a movie you saw, something that just inspired you. It can be absolutely anything. You can leave us with whatever you want.
Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and to give all of yourself, your authentic self, to situations, to the people in your life, to chances that you may take. Because you never know what could happen by that air of vulnerability and just actually stepping out. The worst that could happen is the potential job says no, the potential partner says no, but you have to take those risks and fear looking foolish. I'm tired of people pretending to be macho and not wanting to text back too fast or text back first or put themselves out there. Put yourself out there. Fuck it. Fuck it. Put yourself out there.
I'm pumped up, man. I'm ready to go out into the world today. Well, Khalilah, thank you so much for doing this. I got to shout out the Prince necklace real quick. Which you actually got to go to Prince's place in Minnesota, but we'll have to talk about it.
Yeah.
One last thing. That was pretty cool, though, wasn't it, when you went to his place?
Yes, it was very cool. He came out. He's not dead, actually.
Sweet. Well, Khalilah, stick around just for a second. I'm going to hit the end button, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Forever grateful for
listening, listeners, watchers.
Yes.
Love it.
And hopefully you'll be back again soon. We'll have to do this again. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.